So for example, going back to the robot, I wanted to be able to really do lifelike things with, the utmost amount of control. So what I would do is I would take menial tasks. If I'm like about to brush my teeth or pick up like a pencil or something, I'm like, okay, how can I do this as robotically as possible? Take a few minutes. And you know what I mean? That's what a lot of my practices look like for that.
So when you started, what was the support that you received? Like you were 16, right? So was at 16, did you know that this was going to be your lifelong thing that you're going to devote yourself to? Or was there something else in mind as well that you eventually transitioned?
It's going to sound a little crazy, but I actually had Olympic dreams prior to dance. So in high school, I thought that was where my life was going. I'm going to go to the Olympic trials, 2018 or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get a scholarship for track and field. I'm going to the Olympics. That'll be my life. I'm going to be, but then, injury after injury, it kind of takes a toll on you mentally, So after that, I had just kind of been like, you know what? In the 7th grade, I had made this list. It was a bucket list. I'm like, a list of things I want to do before I die. One of those things, I wanted to save a life. So I thought to myself, let me become a firefighter. And then hopefully I can save a life through that.
Yeah.
You got to do like paramedics before you do fire. So I started that. And then in doing so, I realized I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, what happens when I save a life? I'm going to be done with this job. And this is a lot to commit. So I made it in the 7th grade. So finished the paramedics portion, didn't go back for fire. And then I decided, I'm like, you know what? If I only get one shot at life, you know what I mean? If I only get one run at this, I'm going all in on this one thing that I currently am in love with, and that was dance at the time, and still is. So if you're your safest bet, I'm like, if I got all this time to invest all this money, let's say I got $100 grand, and I'm like, my parents are like, invest in stocks. I'm like, okay, well, let's just go home and, I'll be rich off Tesla. I'm Tesla in that scenario, you know what I mean? In my head.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of where I'm coming from with this, motive pursuit.
And I'm sure like convincing definitely like even your family, right? Like saying like, I'm taking dance for the rest of my life. Like that's going to be my income. That's going to put food on the table for me. Right. I'm sure like definitely like there's parents out there that are like very strict on get a job, get an education. And that's how you live your life. Right. So was that ever an issue? Like just convincing your parents like, hey, this is what I love to do. And somehow I'm going to make this work.
Definitely. When I dropped out of the fire academy, they were not pleased. And I don't mean to like crap on my parents. My parents love them. They are fantastic parents, but that decision doesn't make them happy. I have a grandma who lives in Atlanta, and she's pretty old school too. So when I told her over the phone, she laughed. When I told her that I wanted to dance, Yeah. My mom begged me to go back to school. My dad was, old school, dads are just gonna be like, why are you dancing when you could be lifting weights or getting a real job? You know what I mean? That's kind of how he is. But I think once they started to see, certain accolades and results, they started to come around. You know what I mean? I think realistically where they're coming from as parents, they just want to see that their kid is okay,
Right.
And so the formula that I had kind of approached life with wasn't what they're used to seeing. So they didn't know what the results were going to be. So I think that's where they were coming from. So at first they were a little apprehensive, and now they're more accepting, definitely. But if you ask them like what they'd rather I be doing, they would probably tell you something else.
Yeah, no, that's definitely important to like have that faith in yourself and be able to like stand behind like your decisions if that's something that you are really passionate about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so going back to your accolades, what are those exactly? Or like what have you accomplished, like your biggest moments?
Biggest moments? I had okay, so I had won a series of battles. And this was big for me because in the beginning, I was not winning. I would be out of every battle first round, the first, I want to say 4 or 5 years of me battling. Um, and then now and then all of a sudden I won one battle, won another battle, and then I went 2 years straight without ever losing. And that was literally right before the pandemic happened. You know what I mean? So, my kill streak is pretty high. Just drop a nuke. Whatever. No,
light work.
I don't mean to brag. For those who don't know me, I'm just kidding. The streak is real, but like my attitude is not. Now, for me, that is big though. Another thing I got to. Are you guys familiar with K-pop at all?
Yeah.
You guys know BTS?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got the opportunity to dance with them for a few shows.
Hey.
2019 in New York and New Jersey. So
Okay.
that's pretty cool. I didn't know who they were prior to, and then I did my research going in, and I was like,
yeah, that's
my man made it. We made it.
I'm doing the tech rehearsal. I'm like, this is really a stadium, and it's sold out. So I think that was definitely the biggest thing for me. Teaching as well in LA and in Hawaii were also big things. I had some other things lined up too, but unfortunately, the pandemic hit. So like that kind of put a nail in those plans, But those to me are the biggest things as of right now.
And you, I mean, you achieved them too. So a lot of people look at dance as a sport, and it is a sport, right? So did you have to put in your hours just like any other sport into getting better? Like within those 2 years or those couple of years that you weren't winning, how did you transfer from not winning to, okay, now I'm actually good at this and now I can actually go? Was it like a daily grind? Were you practicing every day? What was that practice like?
Definitely every day. I wouldn't say that, like, I've never been the type to like be like, okay, from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. practice. Like for me, it was more so, how kids are. You always got your headphones in, you know what I mean? So what I would do is do a lot of like small things throughout the day that'll help me practice certain elements. So for example, going back to the robot, I wanted to be able to really do lifelike things with, the utmost amount of control. So what I would do is I would take menial tasks. If I'm like about to brush my teeth or pick up like a pencil or something, I'm like, okay, how can I do this as robotically as possible? I took a few minutes and just, you know what I mean? That's what a lot of my practices look like for that.
Okay.
There was also decent sessions. Like a lot of other dancers, freestylers in the city will get together and just practice different elements, bounce ideas off each other. And I had people also help me. You know what I mean? I won't say that I did everything on my own. I had some people give me a lot of advice. So if anybody's practicing on their own, don't think you can do it by yourself 100% of the way. You will progress a lot faster with other people.
And I mean, you've gotten the chance to now go to stadiums that are sold out, right? And teach people in LA and Hawaii. So what was that like for you, just getting that chance to admire those opportunities and, like live it for life? Like, I bet you going into a sold out stadium it's definitely hard. I know I would get nervous, but what was that like for you?
You know what? It was one of those things where I think it's just so big that your brain can't really fathom what's going on, because I had looked them up, and there was articles saying that they're the biggest thing since the Beatles, all these different things. I'd heard that it was sold out, and then I'm seeing everybody like come into the stadium because we had like the box seats or whatever at the top of the stadium. You look down, I could see it filling up, and I'm just like, man, like normally I'd be, I feel my heart racing, you know what I mean, or whatever, but it's like my brain doesn't even know what's going on, so I didn't feel nervous in those moments, but I was very excited. There was so there was one song we had to like go from the like, I guess, dressing room area. We walked straight to the bottom underneath the stage, and we had on these little platforms that we had to kind of hide underneath because they had platforms are going to rise us up, and then we were going to just jump off, start dancing, whatever, go crazy. And when you're down there, the music is so incredibly loud. You're just like waiting. And in that moment, I just remember thinking to myself, like, is this real life? Like,
This is me.
and I'm looking around, and literally, like, I remember one guy was like throwing up, freaking out. You know what I mean? Because we all, like, a lot of us had never done something of that scale before. You know, but in just, I guess, adrenaline coming in. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, you know, music, you start to rise up, and it's time. It's go time. All of a sudden, just you don't hear the audience no more. It's silence. You just, all you hear is your breathing. You know what I mean? You're like, okay. And it's like everything's moving in slow motion. You know, you're going through the steps. Right? You know?
Yeah.
It is honestly, like, anybody who's just listening to this not gonna know what I'm talking about, but it is honestly so unreal. I can't describe it to you. But if you've played sports and you know, like, those moments where it's like really, it's clutch time, like, you know what I'm talking about, you know?
Like the last game winners.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? So that's really what it was like in that moment. That's all I think about whenever I think back to it.